Today, I am very, very privileged to meet with Phillipa Geard. And for many, many years, I've been following Phillipa's success story of innovation and changing an industry to accommodate moms and flexible working hours. So, Phillipa, thank you so much that you are joining me today. Phillipa, so just to start off with, if you can give me a brief background on your business and why you started RecruitMyMom.
Sure. So RecruitMyMom was launched publicly in 2012, and it came about as part of my own life story. I had worked in corporate for many years, and when I'd had my first child, he was born prematurely. And I found myself in a situation where I just actually couldn't do the corporate hours anymore. And so I left the corporate world, but within a couple of years, I was finding that I needed some more to life than just children. And I was looking to find more flexible work. And as it turned out, I ended up consulting and was able to service small, medium clients on marketing skills and various other skills. But when we moved down to the Western Cape, I was still doing some flexible type work, and I would meet incredible moms in the parking lots that would tell me how they wished that they could find more flexible work, but that the recruitment agencies would just put their, in those days, printed CVs in the bottom drawer because they were looking for part-time work or flexible work. And when I heard their stories of how educated they were, where they'd worked, often in big organizations around the world, internationally, locally, it just felt to me that in a country where we were so desperate for good skills, that we were missing something by letting these women go from their careers into their homes where they wanted to work, but nobody was helping them. And because of my experience of consulting, I knew that small, medium businesses particularly needed really good skills, but not always in a full-time in-office capacity. And so I thought that possibly if I could build something online that could reach the whole of South Africa, but that could match mom skills to employer skills, that possibly there was something I could do to make a difference for women in South Africa. And so that's actually what started the journey of RecruitMyMom. I never thought I'd own a recruitment agency. I thought it would work more like a dating agency. But as it turns out, it ended up being more like a recruitment agency, and we're still evolving. But that's the story and the birth of RecruitMyMom.
Each person has a different currency, as you would call it, and I think specifically moms' currency is flexible working hours, or that the feeling that they at least can integrate work and life. Have you had an increase now in remote work opportunities? How has it impacted the job market currently?
Yeah, so for RecruitMyMom, prior to COVID, we would have said that possibly 5% of our jobs were fully remote, and the rest were flexible working in terms of office, a hybrid of office or part-time or generally in office roles. There were very few solely remote jobs on RecruitMyMom, 5%. Whereas now, there's a considerable increase in the number of fully remote roles. All those mindsets about people won't work at home, they'll be on Twitter and watching Netflix all day, that's proven to be incorrect. That's not right. Productivity levels have in fact increased. And so employers are now thinking, gosh, well, if productivity's increased, then why? We're seeing a change.
I'm really excited for the change and that can bring to the dynamics in the workplace.
Absolutely. It's got to be good for women.
Absolutely. We've just chatted about the entrepreneurial journey as well, and that it could also be an alone journey, but a time where you can really see, how you can apply your strengths to build a business. So I know that I'm passionate about strengths, as I'm a Gallup strengths coach, as you know, but how has that helped you in your business to understand more of where you should focus on and what you should let your team focus on?
Yeah, absolutely. So I fortunately have done a strengths finders results test. So I know all my 30, but I know my top 5. So my top one is belief, and my second one is achiever. And then I do responsibilities, my third. So I'll talk about my top 3 for now.
Sure.
And belief for me has been an absolute game changer in terms of getting RecruitMyMom where it has been now. One, because I believe that the idea was gifted to me from above, and I believe that I could really make a difference in the lives of women in South Africa. And that belief is what drove me through very, very difficult periods. When I started RecruitMyMom, I was receptionist, salesperson, IT manager, designer, strategist, you name it, working sometimes 12, 13 hours, going to bed at 2, 3 in the morning for days. And I think that belief combined with achiever were 2 of those strengths that really pushed through in terms of getting the business where they are. And just that responsibility is the other one, which is feeling like I have been given and given so much, and I have so much in life. It is my responsibility to make a difference in the lives of others. And so what can I do about it, and what am I going to do about it? And I think that when I look around at often women's entrepreneurs is that they are often lifestyle based, but they're also very socially impactful a lot of the time. And I think that's our drivers and our strengths is that we're trying to make a better world around us. I didn't know those were my strengths when I started RecruitMyMom. I only did the Strength Finders test later on. Sure. But I can see how those strengths really helped get RecruitMyMom where it is today.
I think it's such an incredible story because we are all here to make a difference in this world, and to live with more meaning and impact. That is, for me, my ethos of my business is more meaning, more impact.
Yes.
And I don't think women should settle in careers or in roles that doesn't play to their strengths, and that don't fulfill them, so that because if you're happy at work, you're happy at home. If you now reflect back at your journey, what are the lessons that you learned and that you would tell your younger self?
The one that I probably quote most in terms of one of the things that has become a bit of a mantra for me is that self-belief and self-doubt are 2 ends of this opposite side of the same string. They're on the opposite ends, same piece of string. And you can either lean into self-doubt or you can lean into self-belief. And there are moments in time on a daily basis where you get to choose which one you lean into or not. And if I were younger, I would tell myself to lean into self-belief far more than self-doubt, because I think when you're younger, you have so many doubts about your capabilities and what you're able to do. So that would be definitely one. The other one is to build networks. It's from the beginning, build networks around you, because people are invariably very generous. And when you need help or you need anything, it's really important to be able to lean into those networks and to be able to get that. So those would be 2. And then the third would probably be kind to yourself.
Completely.
We're very hard on ourselves. It doesn't matter what we do, we're hard on ourselves always.
Absolutely.
And just to learn to be kinder to oneself in the midst of what's going on. And post-COVID, roll with the punches. You can't plan everything.
No, completely. Your mind and your body is not made to get out of your comfort zone. And I think often people hold themselves back because of the fear of change or the unknown. And then they hold themselves back from growth, actually, because of that inner critic and that voice that keeps on telling them they can't do it, or now is not the right time.
Yeah, that is so true, Louise. I mean, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think that is a very valuable lesson, and it's a lifelong lesson that one learns.
For the moms out there and people in the job market, how do you think they can make themselves stand out more?
The basics are never to be taken for granted. So when one writes a motivational letter, one must write a motivational letter when one applies for a job in the job market. And that motivational letter is absolutely key to unlocking a door, because in that motivation letter, you've got such an opportunity to market yourself to an employer specifically for that job. And the thing that we see most, and it's probably one of the biggest mistakes that people make, is they send a generic motivational letter with a generic CV for a particular job. And the reality is that in order to stand out for a recruiter or an employer, is they're looking for the best fit and the best match. And so one needs to be able to pull out what it is that makes you the best fit and the best match for a job, a particular job. And if one can write that well, and one can present that well, you've already a step ahead of the crowd. And then to back it up with a professional CV that's well written, that is mistake-free, that is coherent, that's just the first. That's before one gets to an interview. And the other thing is to be passionate about what you do. I have recruited staff into RecruitMyMom because they wrote me very passionate emails about why they wanted to be part of my organization. I didn't even see their CVs until later. It was their passionate writing of why they wanted to be part of my organization that made me sit up and take notice.
And it also just links for me to, you have to really like what you do, because you will be successful if you want to go to work every day, and if it plays to your strengths and your passions, so not just to settle for any role out there, but I think often people think the recruitment process is just more that I come from a place of need. So, anybody please just take me. Whereby I think you need to learn how to market your value and to look for the appropriate match, whether it is the role, the culture, the leadership style, so that ultimately you don't make a decision now that you're regretting in 5 months again, once you're settled in, so it's kind of on both sides that you have to, the recruiter as well as the person looking, that really have to do their research and their investigation really well.
Yeah, and so in an online space, as a job seeker, you don't always have insight as to who the client is.
Yeah.
But once one is through the initial stages of having one's CV received and accepted for an interview, and you know who the client is that for me, what's important is that candidates look for a values match. Because if you find a values match, invariably everything else will flow from that. And if you miss that values match, you could be desperately unhappy in the role that you're in. Or, as you say, if you're in a role where you've got a values match, but it's not playing to your strengths, you're doing something that's completely out of your natural strength, it just becomes hard. Your day-to-day grind is hard. And I know when I'm working out of my strengths, when I'm working in another strength, by the end of the day, I'm exhausted.
Yes, you're so tired, and you don't know why do I feel so tired. Phillipa, just from a last question then, what is your vision for the year for RecruitMyMom, and a message to everybody out there that's looking for an opportunity at the moment?
So my vision for RecruitMyMom is that I'm hoping that we might be able to put down a bigger footprint of where we've got recruiters. So I'm very aware that we're very Western Cape and Gauteng centred. So I'm actually starting to put my feelers out for bigger centres where we may have recruiters that will build the business in different centres around South Africa, so we can really help a lot more moms and get the word out to other employers about RecruitMyMom. So that's one of the things that I really am looking at for RecruitMyMom. And then we're also looking at overseas opportunities where we can offer South African skills into overseas markets. So that's something that we're looking at as well. But I'm so grateful that Recruit My Mom survived through the COVID period. You can imagine that recruiting was not on the top of the agenda for companies through COVID. And so just to see us growing again, from where we've been, back to the strength where we've been. And my message to any moms out there that are looking for work is don't take it personally when you don't find the job that you applied for, because it probably wasn't the right fit. And if you constantly take a rejection personally, is you will allow it to break down your confidence. But rather, be authentic about who you are, be authentic about what it is you're looking for and what your strengths are, and wait for that right fit. I understand sometimes that people have a real financial need and they can't wait. But the level of unhappiness that a bad job can bring is sometimes not worth the financial gain that one gets. And so don't let, in this economic climate, you cannot allow any rejections to break down your confidence, because it's not about you per se. It's about a match with a job. Don't give up, just keep going.